So welcome to the Simple Life podcast. It gives me great pleasure today to introduce a chap that I've been following for quite a number of years, Jeff Berwick from the Dollar Vigilante. Jeff, I'll probably introduce how I've sort of come across you in a few minutes, but it'd be great maybe just to hand it over to you to give the audience a quick couple of minutes of, brief history of yourself, a bit of a synopsis in case anybody hasn't come across you.
There's not really an easy way to give a brief one. I've done a lot. I've lived many lives in this lifetime, sailed the world, sank my sailboat, started an internet company in the 90s. It crashed to almost zero. Started up Dollar Vigilante 2009 after the last financial crisis collapse. And that's based on basically anarcho-capitalist sort of theories of and Austrian economics and stuff like that. Also started up a podcast on anarcho-capitalism called Anarchast in 2010. And that led to me starting an event called Anarchapulco in 2015, which is still ongoing. We have one coming up in just less than 2 weeks now in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, our 12th event. Incredible freedom sort of event. All kinds of other things there as well for your audience. For example, like if you're into finance and capital and money and stuff like that, we have right after Anarchapulco is the Dollar Vigilante Summit and then the Crypto Vigilante Summit. We've been into crypto. I recommended Bitcoin at $3 in 2011. I recommended Ethereum at $2 around, I think, 2016. But we went quite heavily into Monero ever since. We see that as being the most important crypto out there. Now I live on a ranch. I have a ranch house with a blue roof for the energy weapons, and I'm getting ready for the apocalypse.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, fantastic. And I came across you, Jeff. I was just saying before we started, I think it was about 2013. So a couple of years after your first Bitcoin recommendation, but I was always, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I was always very keen about the business, finance, money world. And you were the first person that I actually heard the word Bitcoin. Had no clue what it was at the time, and was fascinated. And what sort of grabbed me about it was really the technology for me. When I heard about the blockchain, I just knew straight away, there's just something told me that this is absolutely revolutionary technology. And what I liked about it was the whole sort of, being independent, being sovereign. And I could just see this, basically take it over. Now, obviously, there's been a lot that's happened with it in the last sort of 12, 13 years. I had a very interesting experience with Bitcoin at the start where I could only get it on this random Japanese exchange called Mt. Gox. And unfortunately for me, that got hacked.
The gathering trading card site.
Indeed, yeah. And I that got hacked. So this was really the early days of Bitcoin where there was no really private wallets or whatever. Or you had to be really, really techy to create one. And that's just not me. So I went out of crypto for a bit. There was a little bit of a burn. But then obviously I've got back in recent years, and it's a big part of my sort of investment journey as well. But I suppose, what's your current take on Bitcoin then? Because I'll be honest with you, I've fallen out of love with it.
Yeah, me too. I started falling out of love with it in around 2017. So as a bit of a background, I found out about it at Doug Casey's ranch in Argentina from Trace Mayer, who used to be a very well-known Bitcoin person. He's since kind of disappeared, kind of smartly, because he's like a billionaire now and very outspoken anarcho-capitalist. So pretty smart, actually, to just disappear. I'm not that smart. I don't hide from anything. I'm not saying he's hiding, but he kind of is. He actually wrote a whole book about hiding. So I don't think he'd be take too much offense that that's what he's doing. And actually, I respect him for doing that. But yeah, he told me about it at $3. And I had no idea what it was, just like everybody when you first heard the word. And he actually sent me my first 3 Bitcoins, actually. He said, I'll show you how it works. And he goes, here, open a wallet. And I did. And then he said, what's your address? And he sent me 3 Bitcoins. And he said, and I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then I said, well, what do I do with them? And he goes, well, you can't do a lot with them at the moment, but there's a few stores online. And one of them was his stores. He had an online ebook store for his books about gold, which is also doing incredibly well. Very smart guy. And it's so smart that he made me buy one of his gold ebooks for, drum roll please, 3 Bitcoins. So the 3 Bitcoins that he gave me, he actually, and it was only worth $9 at the time. He's got them back. He's very, very savvy when it comes to money. I kind of wish he had let me keep them. You know, would have been nice to be worth about what is that, $250,000 today. But anyway, it was very nice of him to show me how it worked, and then I got quite into it over the ensuing years, and actually started the world's first Bitcoin ATM. But I partnered with a person who was young and naive and stupid, and he basically felt like he tried to, like, you know, take the company from me and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, yeah, do whatever you want, I don't care. But I did try to start the world's first Bitcoin ATM in like 2015. And then really got into it because back then it was all of us, you know, good people, which are like anarchists, anarcho-capitalist people who don't believe in slavery, because that's what it is when you're not an anarchist. If you're a person who believes in the state or the government, you basically believe that people should be slaves and they should be owned and that they should be taxed and they should be regulated by a violent entity who actually enforces it with violence. So anyone who believes in that is not a very good person, obviously. That might be some people in your audience, and I don't want to like slap them in the face that they're not good people, but they probably didn't realize because the whole system is actually a system of illusion. The actual word of government actually means mind control in Greek. So anyway, back then, most of the people into Bitcoin were actually people like myself, anarcho-capitalists, voluntarists, we call ourselves. We believe every transaction should be voluntary, not using violence or force or theft, which I know sounds crazy, but it's not. And you know, there's people like Roger Ver, who was around back then. He's a pretty good friend of mine. He became known as the Bitcoin Jesus. He's been in jail numerous times since. Lace was in Spain for no reason whatsoever. That's just how they do things. Another person who was really into Bitcoin and Monero was John McAfee. He also spoke at Acapulco in the past, and they killed him in a jail in Spain. So it's been quite an interesting few years since I found out about Bitcoin. But back then, most of us were actually, we saw it as being the thing that would take down the central banks and take down the governments, which are evil entities, just factually, like logically, that they're based on violence and theft. So they're not legitimate at the very least. So we looked at it that way, but it became clear over the years that Bitcoin wasn't exactly what we thought it was. Like even when I first heard about Bitcoin, I thought it was completely private, like Monero, and that's how everyone was talking about it. It's like, yeah, you'll never know who has what Bitcoin. Well, we've learned over the years that using coin analytics and things like that, and governments and Palantir, that it's pretty actually easy to find out who has Bitcoin. So that was the first sort of big wake-up call. And then the second sort of big wake-up call was in 2017 when there was something called the Bitcoin Civil War, which my partner at the Crypto Vigilante, Rafael Laverde, was involved in. And he was on the side of not restricting Bitcoin, but the people who wanted to limit it and basically make it so it could never be a true P2P cash. Because of the small block size and things like that, they won, and they were actually backed by people in like Bilderberg and the MasterCard and, you know, the globalist type people, the system, the Wall Street type people, and they were very intent on trying to make sure that Bitcoin could never be used by everyone in the world, because if it did, then all the central banks would go away, and if the central banks went away, then all the governments would lose most of their power, and that's not what they want. But they kind of won that war. That's what Roger Ver's book, Hijacking Bitcoin, is all about, if you want to learn about that. And after he put that book out, that's when they put him in jail again for exposing what they had done. But I kind of like, at this point, Bitcoin's kind of been co-opted. It's not private like I thought it was originally. So the obvious answer then is, what is the actual thing I was looking for? And that actually turns out to be Monero. And it's been around for about 10 years now. It's doing incredibly well. It's in the top 20 coins again at the moment. It's been one of the best performing cryptocurrencies lately because people are just now finding out about it. So for people out there who are kind of like, oh, I wish I knew about you guys when you knew about Bitcoin in 2011 or 2013. Well, I'm telling you right now, the next one is Monero. And then over the next few years, that's going to become like Bitcoin in size and in usage, hopefully, although they're trying everything they can do to stop it. But yeah, so when it comes to Bitcoin, I don't have any. I sold my last Bitcoin about $100,000 a few months ago. When the Crypto Vigilante was, you're in the Crypto Vigilante, you're also in the Vigilante Insiders Club. So you know that Mr. A has been saying, sell, sell, sell all the way down. And so I did. So I actually only have one Bitcoin right now, which is the physical Bitcoin that I bought years ago for about $700. And it was a one Bitcoin Cassius coin. And these coins generally trade for 2 to 3 times their actual Bitcoin value because it's a collector's item. So I kind of technically have 2 or 3 Bitcoins still, and I don't ever plan to sell it. Even if Bitcoin goes to zero, I don't really plan to sell it. It's just like a collector's item to me from the crazy last 15 years that it's been. But aside from that, I don't really I care at all about Bitcoin anymore. It's been completely co-opted. Now everyone is into Bitcoin because they removed us all. Sorry for going on for so long here, but it is a pretty long story. But like, for example, all the people on YouTube in the past were people like myself talking about Bitcoin, all of us anarcho-capitalist types, and they removed all of our YouTube channels. And now you've got all these influencers on YouTube, and these are like mostly kids who have no idea even about what happened. They have no principles. All they care about is money, number go up. And so, yeah, that's, where I'm at with Bitcoin. It's basically been co-opted. Most of the people who are into it have no idea what it even is. And even if they do, they're not into it for the reasons I was into it. And all the early people were into it because it was going to actually get rid of the central banks. So at this point, yeah, I don't care too much about Bitcoin much at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you talk about Monero, Jeff, and just for the people out there that maybe, just, on the periphery of crypto might not have, heard about it. It's the ticker symbol XMR. And the big thing with Monero is it's a privacy coin. That's the key, right? And that's why it's becoming so popular now.
Yeah, it should be stated that, they're called cryptocurrencies for a reason. Crypto, hidden, right? The thing with Bitcoin was we thought it was, but it became clear after a few years that it isn't. So they're really like anything that's not actually crypto, it's not actually encrypted, so you can't actually see who has it. It's not really a true cryptocurrency. So what we're actually talking about are real cryptocurrencies. Things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these things are not real cryptocurrencies. They're not hidden. They're not crypto. And so, yeah, there's only a few real, actual, true cryptocurrencies still out there. One's definitely Monero. It's the biggest. There's another one called Zcash, but that's actually controlled by all the same people who try to co-opt everything. It's controlled out of the CIA and Israel. Israel, I guess, for your audience, I call it Israel. It's a terrorist state. And so that they try to promote that as a privacy coin, but it's not. Most people don't. It's actually an open coin, but you can put it private if you want, but no exchange will accept it if you've ever put it private. So I should mention too, Monero's delisted off most exchanges for that reason. They're trying to stop it. This is basically the next battle, the next war of this, what I've been involved in since almost the beginning. Also, people like Ross Ulbricht is a friend. He was jailed for Silk Road, which is a slightly different case, but he was in a maximum security prison for 10 years for having a site where you could use Bitcoin to trade things. So yeah, that's where it's kind of at right now. And yeah, so Monero is like one of the only true cryptocurrencies out there. There's a few others. Zcash, I call it Ztrash. It is a co-opt honeypot, so never ever touch that. But the entire developer team just recently quit, so that was very interesting. There's a few others out there. There's things like Pirate Chain, which I really like. It's actually Pirate Chain is actually the most private cryptocurrency out there. It's even more private than Monero. The biggest difference between Monero and Pirate Chain is size of the amount of people who use it, and the size of the network, and how long it's been around. Monero is the big daddy, but then below that is Pirate Chain, and there's a few others out there as well. But those are the only true cryptocurrencies out there.
Yeah, no, great. And I suppose just sort of go back to Bitcoin for me, being in it for that length of time as well, is that I think the thing for me, Jeff, is that like what I can't buy is this. It was created by this, Satoshi Nakamoto, right? Nobody knows who this person is. And for me, like, you got to be kidding me, right? In a world that like literally that everybody knows what's happening. The Secret Service agencies. My view on it was probably created by them to get us into digital currency and then evolve us to the CBDCs. And that's why I've always had in recent years a real sort of moral sort of tug of war really with crypto, because I love the blockchain and I love what it could do for us potentially from a sovereign independent point of view. But then a part of me is thinking, am I going down this sort of very clever game of 5D chess by Secret Service agencies to get me into something and to pick which cryptos? As you said, it's very, very difficult because there's absolutely so many of them. And I think that's where I've landed on Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto, really? Are we really saying to this day and age that we don't know who this creator was? And that's where I land on it.
Yeah, I've actually never said I know who it is, and I still don't know who started it. I actually don't. And it's kind of interesting because I know all the people who quickly got into Bitcoin once it was launched. And a lot of them are great people like Roger Ver and Rafael Laverde and all those sort of people. But we were always like, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? And everyone's got their theories. Raf kind of lean towards Craig Wright at one point. I don't know if he still does. I actually never thought Craig Wright was Satoshi. I thought he was involved, but even if you look at Craig Wright, he seems like a CIA type guy anyway. So even over the years though, when people would ask me, Jeff, who started it? I'd always go, I don't know. But the actual technology itself is incredible. As you pointed out at the very beginning of this, it's actually a world-changing sort of a technology. Now we've learned since that because it's not encrypted, it's not private, that it's not what we thought it was. But back in the early days, I would say, I don't know who started it, but this could actually take down the governments and central banks. So that's why I'm in favor of it. But as far as like who it actually is, actually over the years, I've become more and more open to the idea that it could have been actually like a intelligence operation sort of a thing. But here's where things get very interesting. And this is something that I know you're into to some extent as well, that basically, I don't know how to say this quickly, and for people who've never heard this before, so I'll just say it quickly, and they might think it sounds crazy. None of this is real. I'm not real. You're not real. We're in a 3D video game, basically. That's the best way to describe it. And there's only one thing that's ever existed, and that's consciousness. Everything inside of that is all sort of an experience we're all having. So that's what we're doing in this video game. Now, in this 3D video game, it's an incredible video game. It's multidimensional, and there's all kinds of other entities in it. And in what I call this matrix part of the video game, which is where we are here on this place that they call Earth, is all kinds of other entities, including consciousness fields. And Christoph Melchizedek has talked about it, that basically this matrix got taken over by a consciousness field that he calls the mimic and the mirror sort of consciousness fields. I know this, for anyone who hasn't heard this before, this all sounds crazy, but basically, we live in a matrix right now, and it's all been taken over by basically a consciousness field that's flipped everything inverted. And now for people who everything else sounded crazy, you probably have noticed this. The education system makes you dumb. The government of the people system, democracy, makes you a slave. The medical system makes you sick and kills you. Everything's inverted, and that's part of what's actually happened in this matrix, is it's been taken over and everything's been inverted. So when you get to the point of who created Bitcoin, well, this is actually way, way deeper than that. Is the internet itself, which was actually created at DARPA in some ways, although also in various other ways by the market, is that also part of this mimic matrix system to keep us enslaved? In many ways, you can see, and Max Egan talks about this, how basically like things like this, these are scrying mirrors. These have been written about for a long time. And what actually is our history here? Are there resets all the time by this mimic matrix system? And do we actually get uploaded to the mainframe if we actually lose our souls? This is stuff that Max Egan talks about. This is also stuff that Christoph Melchizedek talks about. So when people go, well, the Bitcoin might have been started by the intelligence agencies to kind of keep us enslaved, I would say to that, well, so is probably the internet, and so is probably electricity itself, which is actually part of this mimic system. So I would say if you really are like hardcore and you're like, well, I don't know if I want to use Bitcoin because maybe the intelligence agency or the system itself created it to keep me enslaved, well, you should actually probably stop using all technology altogether and actually just go into the forest, sit by a river and meditate, which would be an awesome idea, by the way. Like that would be the best thing you could ever do, and actually look at your mind and get out all your programs. So that's how deep it goes on that respect. But yeah, when it comes to Bitcoin, who started it, I actually still don't know, but I've warmed up a lot more that it's something a bit more nefarious than it looked. But even if that was the case, basically, if the intelligence agencies or this consciousness field created that to kind of keep us enslaved by getting us into this digital currencies and stuff, it's just like with the internet. So like the internet, from my point of view, is quite possibly something to keep us from actually knowing who we really are. But what have we done with the internet? We've used it to have conversations like this. We've used this to wake up people worldwide about what the actual system is. And that's what we've done with cryptocurrencies as well. So even if the CIA started Bitcoin, we've actually co-opted it, you could say, and the market in general and a lot of good people have created something out of it, like Monero, which is actually really good and will actually really help keep you out from the slavery system. But even that, at the end of the day, even things like Monero or anything material, if you're stuck on it, you're actually caught in the matrix. And so I would suggest people actually begin looking inside and doing the work. And then all of this doesn't matter that much. And then you can see it how I see it, as actually an incredible 3D video game. And it's all just fun and enjoyable, no matter even what happens.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're right. I absolutely do resonate with all of what you've just said there. And yeah, I find the same thing when I'm trying to speak to people about this. You know, people could say, like, I mean, this is just crazy. But I think what I said to you, Jeff, before we got on as well, is that I really gravitate to your journey in life as well, because, you know, we certainly led the life of probably, you know, probably not the great way when we were younger with regards to the alcohol, the womanizing and stuff. And you've been on this massive sort of, and I've seen this over the last number of years, spiritual journey. I got into the money side with you back in the day, but really I enjoy your videos now because of the journey that you've been on, and I sort of aspire to that because I've been on that. I gave up alcohol 7 years ago. I wasn't leading a good life, but things have all changed now. You know, I've been able to set up my own business. I've never been as strong or fit or healthy. I'm leading a good life. And what I've figured out was that, yeah, look, our current world today is really against us in many ways. And without going down too much rabbit holes, the whole point of my channel is the simple life. I want to get people just to basically focus on these current things. And money is a big thing that I'm starting with, because I do absolutely understand when you're, you know, on the breadline and you're trying to support your kids and family, you don't really have the time sometimes to go into this. And I have spent probably quite a bit of money, and I know you too have, Jeff, of developing yourself. And what I'm trying to do is get people to sort of figure out that, yeah, something is wrong, but there is a better path, there's a better journey, and to look at the likes of myself and the likes of you and say, look, we've been there. Look, there's a long way to go here, but if any of this is making any sense, it's worth looking into it a bit more. So on that basis, Jeff, look, from the money side, I would say, tell me if you think this is right, but I would say probably since you started doing the walks and talks with Lucy, your dog, which was around COVID, I just saw a complete change in you, in a guy that was always about the sort of the financial side. And yes, you still talk about it to this day, but you are very much now the spiritual side, which is what I really get even more from you now. So could you tell me, did you see this happening? Did you notice it happening? Is this being told to you before?
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that I've changed over the years. I've had a lot of people tell me I've really changed, so I think I must have changed, right? Like it seems like everyone seems to see that. I don't think about it too much, but I will say that, yeah, I got very caught in the matrix. So even things like alcohol, for example, that's like a major thing in the matrix. That's what really keeps your energy vibration low. And keeps you into this materialistic sort of like mindset, and then, you know, even things like womanizing and stuff like that. That's all the lust and all that. That's also part of keeping you inside this matrix. And I did all those things. Like for anyone, like I lived like almost like a rock star life for like quite a few years. Not really, because I didn't have that much money, but I was just all over the world, just always with women and drinking and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, that's what we've actually been shown on the television programming, which is also mind control, you know, that's what you want to be. That's, you know, that's like the thing to be, right? And I actually fell for it. So I've fallen for numerous things inside this matrix. I'm probably falling for some right now and I don't even know, and I'll find out later, right? But I did fall for it. And I'm living this life. I'm all over the world. I'm drinking women all the time, all that sort of a thing. And it reached a point where it wasn't making me happy at all. You know, you can only do that so much. And, you know, you just reach this point. It's like, wait a sec. I thought this is like, you know, the good life. I thought this is what I'm trying to aspire to be. Like everyone tries to get here. And when you get there and you realize you're completely not happy, like you can only do that so many times before you wake up one morning and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're feeling like crap, you're hungover, some strange woman just left that you can't remember how you even met her. And you just look at yourself and go, what am I doing? Like is, you know, what is, you know, who am I? What am I? And that sort of thing. And that's actually the point I reached. And then I met my wife, and then I had some kids, and that changed things dramatically. Although I was still drinking and still doing quite a bit of stuff like that, because I still kind of thought that was like, you know, what made me happy, right? And then that reached a point, a rock bottom, you could say, where my family was falling apart. All my stuff I was doing was falling apart. I was a mess. And I just really came to a realization that I either had to basically kill myself because that's how unhappy I was. Like it was that level, like it was deep, like after it got to a point where it was deep depression, or trying to find a way out of it and trying to find like the real way to go. And because I was actually basically my daughter who probably saved me, because if I didn't have kids, I probably just would have kept drinking until I died. That's probably what I would have done. But I looked at her and I'm like, I can't be this guy. She's so amazing. She's so beautiful, young little girl. And I'm going to be the dad who just becomes this. So I decided I'm going to do the work. So I actually, at first, I searched out ayahuasca. And I did that a couple of times, and it actually gave me some incredible insights. And the biggest insight it gave me that I didn't know that helped me so much was it basically made me realize that I needed others to help me, because I wanted to just fix it myself. I thought a man is supposed to just fix his own problems. He could never ask for help. The ayahuasca showed me that's what I needed to do. So then I asked my wife to help me, and then things got better. But I still wasn't great. And then I actually went on the internet. I said, what's the most extreme psychedelic you can do to see if it could crack me out of what I was in? And it said iboga. And I went and did that. And it kicked the crap out of me for 2 straight days. But afterwards, all of a sudden, I could see like the beauty in things again. I could see colors, and like I didn't need a drink to kind of feel happy for like about a month or 2 after that. And then that gave me the time to look into meditation, which I didn't know anything about, but something about it, I'm like, I think I need to meditate. And so I started meditating. And I ended up doing that for years, actually, and got to levels of like 1 to 5 hours a day of meditation. And in that meditation, I would see all kinds of my traumas and stuff, and I could start to heal them. And as you heal them, all of a sudden you feel better and stuff like that. I also worked with a top level hypnotherapist for a couple of years as well, and he helped me get out a bunch of traumas. A lot of it was all related to my childhood, as it is with most people. And so with the meditation, well, some psychedelics, the meditation and the hypnotherapy, all of a sudden I was doing awesome. And that's right around when the COVID's hit. And actually I was still drinking. So but I wasn't drinking like I used to. I'd have like a couple of glasses of wine on the weekend, but, you know, just enough to get like kind of almost drunk sort of a thing. And the COVID's hit. And what happened was I used to go to like so many conferences, and I'd always drink at the conferences. So that would be what I do. I'd go and drink at the conferences still, but I was still meditating. I was doing my coffee enemas. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I was actually doing the coffee enemas so I could keep drinking because it helps your liver. And when the COVID happened, all of a sudden all the conferences shut down except for in Acapulco. And Acapulco is one of the only events on earth that never shut down. We just kept going. But because of that, I didn't have to go to these events anymore. And that's when I actually, and so the COVID pandemic actually kind of forced me to like I didn't have a lot of stuff to do that I used to do. So I thought, well, I'll just meditate more. And that's what I did. And that's when things really started to change, because I got really deep into the meditation at that point. And then Max Egan came to my house on New Year's Eve one night, and I was still drinking sometimes. So I drank on New Year's Eve. And on that New Year's Eve night, 4 years ago, I think, I got really, like, I had 3 bottles of white wine, and I was up at like 5 in the morning or 7 in the morning still drinking when Max found me in my office, and he said, "Brother, I got to give you this weed brownie." And he like shoved it in my mouth, and it actually just knocked me out. I had to go into a deep meditative state in my bed, and I started crying and stuff and letting stuff out. And that was the last time I ever drank. And it's because of not only that weed brownie and like 2 full days, it was like almost like doing a boga. It was like a deep meditative state for a couple of days. But then after that, I just kind of realized that if I were going to drink again, it was going to really affect my meditations. And my meditations were actually so important to me at that point. I said to myself, that's it. I'm just not going to drink again, because the alcohol actually makes it so I can't meditate as well. And the meditation is the best thing in my life, or one of the best things. Obviously, my kids and my dogs and all that, but like it's like one of the best parts of my day every day. So that's when I stopped drinking. And that's actually around when you started watching me, I think, or at least the walk and talks with Lucy. And yeah, that's when I really started to change. Once I totally stopped with the alcohol, that was probably the last major step to me really taking off. And since then, I've just nonstop been going higher and higher in everything in my life, just sort of like you. Everything, I've got everything great. I'm healthy. I'm, all good. And the last sort of probably key there was the stopping poisoning myself all the time.
Yeah. It's massive. It is massive. And I'd love to be able to talk to my sort of younger self, 20 years ago, and give this advice. But I think, I've got a lot of friends being Irish. Your drinking is in our culture. And it is a very different.
Yeah, and Berwick upon Tweed, Scottish.
The Scottish.
And then my other side is my mom's side, which is the French. So that was the wine all the time. So I had the Scotch and the wine sort of in my blood, you could say. Yeah. So yeah, I totally get it. And then I was born in Canada, where it was -40 all the time. And the only thing that anyone ever did, because you could barely exist at all, was go watch hockey games and drink beer, and then go to the bar and fight. So that was my sort of history of my family history with alcohol.
That sounds like the north of Ireland growing up, Jeff.
Very similar, just probably a little warmer.
Yeah. But what I say to people, and anybody listening to this, I actually thought, I could never give up alcohol. I was just so in that world, that matrix that you talk about. It was just my life. Like literally, I would work, and it would be the pub. My weekends involved just drinking. And looking back now, I can't believe I'm talking that it was 7-8 years ago. And if anybody's listening to this and is in that same boat, I'd like them to just look at somebody like Jeff and myself and say, look, it can be done, but put no expectation on it. Because for me, I used to give up and go off for a month or 2 months and 3 months, and then come back on it 10 times as worse. But I just think, my advice to anybody out there is that there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? And just see how you go. Maybe cut back a little bit, maybe go off it for a certain little period of time. But it's such a game changer, because for me, all that potential that I was wasted all those years was getting lost in hangovers. And now that it's out of my life, all good things are starting to happen. I've met my partner now of the last 10 years, and she's been an absolute rock for me to move forward in my life as well. And it's just a big thing I want to say to people is, I didn't think I could do it. I'm sure, Jeff, you probably felt the same at one point. Sometimes we have to hit rock bottom. I unfortunately did as well. But thankfully, I came out of it, right? And if anybody is at that rock bottom or going towards there, hit us up, because, it's all about that support community, because there's so many fabulous people, creatives, and it usually is the creatives, the talents, the entrepreneurs the trailblazers that find themselves in this predicament because they're actually unhappy with where the world is today. And that's what I was. I was deeply unhappy with where the world was, and I was projecting a lot, and I didn't do the work on myself. And that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. But it all stems from not drinking. You know, I've never been fitter, as I said earlier, set up my own business. Now I've been with my partner for the last 10 years. And Jeff, you're very, very similar. Um, what I'd ask is those people that are so busy, that are just still in the 9 to 5, they don't maybe have too much spare disposable income. What could they do just as a few basic things to just start? Because it's easy for us, obviously, to say stop drinking, right? We know how hard that is. But if they could try and cut it back, is there any other things that you would suggest that really helped you, that was a bit of a game changer?
Well, there's been so many things, but I think I named a few of them. So, if let's say someone's watching this, they do have, most people don't realize they even have a problem. That's one thing to really realize, because even up until my very last days of drinking, and I was like getting drunk a lot, blackout drunk a lot, but it wasn't every night, right? So people go, "You're an alcoholic." I'll be like, "No, I don't need to drink every day," but that's not what it is. So the first step is to actually look at yourself, and this is part of self-work, and this is something I would recommend everyone do, is take some time every morning and just look at yourself, look at your life, look at what's actually happening, and like sit down and like really try to look at it. And then like if you realize that you have an issue with alcohol or whatever it is, I would suggest that you also, and this is like basically meditation, you just sit there and just pontificate on it, think about it, ask questions, because actually when you ask, your subconscious will answer, and also your higher self will sometimes answer as well, but most people just don't list them. So try to sit there, quietly and ask these questions, look at yourself, and say things like, why is it that I need to have these drinks to enjoy myself with my friends at a pub every week? I can actually give you the answer right now if you want. You don't enjoy yourself with your friends at the pub every week. That's why you drink. Because, like, I don't know if you noticed this, Patrick, have you been going to the pub with your friends and just hanging out since you've stopped drinking? And it's probably, and you can answer this yourself, probably because you realize we were just like poisoning ourselves and slurring, and it wasn't actually fun.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, I tried it at the start for the first couple of years because I did struggle at this. I remember walking past pubs in London, and London in the summertime is one of the best cities in the world where everybody's out drinking. And I just was like, I'm missing out on that fun. And that was probably the hardest thing, because thankfully for me, I wasn't what I would call addicted to, the hard liquor like the whiskey. I was a pint of Guinness man and a red wine, but it was the social element to it. But you're absolutely right. I went to the pub now, and after two drinks, I'll have two sort of, I don't know, 0% beers or what have you, and then I'm away, because the conversation then just becomes, it's not for us anymore, right? But I will be honest with you, I absolutely love the Schadenfreude the day after, when everybody's hungover and I'm in the gym at like 8:30 in the morning. It's absolutely brilliant. So I got to be honest, I'm working on myself spiritually, but I do quite like that bit when they're absolutely dying, because you know what? I've been there thousands of times. But I think sometimes you have to experience it and get to the point where me and you got to, Jeff, where, yeah, I think the universe was telling me at the end. I remember some of my hangovers, my head was just, it wasn't even a hangover. This is where I'm probably going to get woo woo here. I literally I didn't feel like I was resonating it was just like my head was constantly just buzzing from hangovers. And I think it just got to the point where I wasn't going to give up, but I think somebody, out there, maybe one of my guardian angels or something like that, was like, right, Patrick, you've just wasted 37 years, son. Get your act together, right? And I do feel like and I do feel this is the second part of my life now. And that's why I wanted to start the podcast, try and give back a little bit, because, there's been some people that unfortunately didn't make it through, Jeff, right? And it's such a prevalent thing in this day and age, especially where I'm from in the north of Ireland and stuff. So for me, trying to help people get out of that pit is ultimately what this is all about. And if I can help them with a bit of the money side, a bit of the health and wellness, but spirituality is a big part of it. And I know a lot of people might not get this today, but hopefully they might hear a few things, right? And then in a few years' time, they might go, what was those two guys banging on about a few years ago? That's starting to make sense to me, because I think we said it as well, Jeff. We wouldn't have got this 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have been watching this 20 years ago. If you tried to show it to me, I'd be like, nah, I'm going to the club right now. Like, I'm living the good life. Why are you trying to show me this stuff? What are they talking about? Oh, this isn't real. Of course it's real, all this sort of stuff. Um, here's something like, so let's say someone's watching this right now. They might think they might have an alcohol sort of a problem and they might want to stop and stuff like that. Here's something to think about. How is it that, because alcohol is definitely one of the most dangerous drugs on earth. It has destroyed more families, more people than probably any other drug on earth. Why is it promoted absolutely everywhere by the society? Why is every movie, every time someone wins something, let's go drink the poison? It's on, you go to the sports ball game. I actually like sports ball. I'm a hockey fan, but they tie it in so much. Well, you got to have the beer. You go to the hockey and have the beer and all this kind of stuff. It's absolutely everywhere. Here's a realization to have. Why is this system pushing this on you so much? And think about that. Because if you would have told me that, let's say 10 years ago, right? Because I was very aware of the system, not as deeply as I am now, but, I was aware of how evil the system is. Like it's about slavery, right? That's what this whole system is. If you would have came up to me then and said, Jeff, what you're putting in your mouth there, that's part of their slavery system. And that's how they keep so many people enslaved, because they keep your vibrational level low. It's actually called spirits for a reason. There's all kinds of things going back that it basically lowers your vibrational level. And what happens is, kind of like demonic or negative energies then can come into your body. And that's what actually happens when you black out. Your actual soul, like your true self, leaves because it's so toxic that it can't stay there because the vibration is so low. And then these other entities come in and inhabit your body. And that's what happens when you black out. You wake up, you're like, why did I do that? That wasn't you. Now, if someone had explained that to me 10 or 15 years ago, I might have listened to them because I was so looking for the solutions. But I had never heard anything like that before. So maybe someone, or maybe a million people, who knows, might see this, and maybe that will kind of be the wake-up call to them to at least look at it. Like, why is this a part of our culture so much? And remember the word culture, cult, it's a cult. It's actually like kind of a negative thing in many ways, not always, but in many ways. And it just keeps repeating because it's part of our cult. Just look at that and look at yourself. And here's another thing, just look at what it actually really gives to you. So like, try this, right? First of all, if you usually go out and you drink when you go out, whether it's dinner or a nightclub or a disco or a bar or whatever it is, a pub, just go for one night and don't drink. Now, if you can't do that, okay, do you see what's going on? You've got a bit of an issue, a problem here. You can't even go for one night for dinner or a pub and not drink alcohol. That should be your first wake-up call, right? But if you can do it, which quite a few people probably can, definitely do it. Now, what I want you to do is go and really pay attention to what's going on inside of you. So you might go to the pub and you might feel a little uncomfortable. It's like, oh, I don't feel as relaxed as I usually do. Okay, look into ways to relax. Meditation, exercise. Also become aware that maybe you've got some social anxiety because you've never really learned how to socialize without the alcohol. Okay, now you just need to learn how to do that, and then you can do it without it. And one way, like as an example, there's a lot of, they call them day game pickup artist type things. You could actually go to one of those day game pickup artist guys and actually get them to teach you how to become comfortable socially, because that's a big part of it. That's a big part of what they teach. And just go, I want to learn how to become completely comfortably socially. And what it is just like going to the gym. If you've never really been social without alcohol before, there's a lot of anxiety because you've never done it. Anything you've never done before, there's this fear of the unknown. So you have to actually go to school, train yourself, or you can do it yourself. Just go out and try to be social without alcohol. You might need a coach for it to help you and stuff like that. But once you can do that, then you'll realize it's like, holy cow, now I can do a lot of the stuff I used to do without poisoning myself, without spending all that money, without lying in bed the next day, hating my life. And it was all because you didn't realize that you can do that, but the whole system's just pushed you with this thing. Just take this thing, and now you can go talk to those people. It's like, well, you could have learned how to do that in a couple of days. But so if it was all explained that way to me 20 years ago, if you could have caught my attention, right? Because I was just, I was either working or I was out drinking and having fun. If you could have caught my attention for a few minutes and you told me these things, I might have listened. So maybe someone out there, this can help them.
Yeah, I'm absolutely convinced, and I hope this gets out there to everyone. So, look, Jeff, look, I really appreciate you coming on. And as I said, I've just started this podcast, so I can't believe, I've started with somebody that I've just followed so closely and really resonate with, and I want to get you, Jeff, out to some of the guys like myself, maybe that are maybe a few years behind me, but on this sort of path. So, look, hopefully, we could maybe pick it up again at some point. We've chatted about the money and finance at the start, and then really went into that spirituality, and that's what this channel is about. So, Jeff, thanks very much. You're doing wonders for humanity. You really are, and hopefully we'll get on for another chat again in the future.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And for anyone who's watched this far through, you might like an event like an Acapulco, because this is all the kind of stuff that we all talk about at the event. It's coming up in less than 2 weeks in Puerto Vallarta. If you're in England, there's actually a direct flight from like Manchester, I think, to Puerto Vallarta. So if you're interested in that, just check out narcapulco.com. If you're into the finance stuff, we have the Dollar Vigilante and the Crypto Vigilante newsletter. We actually have 2 events coming up for that, which you can watch it all virtually too, by the way. You can actually get all Narcapulco, Dollar Vigilante, and Crypto Vigilante virtually at narcapulco.com/bundle. And I just want to throw this in, Patrick, because it is the biggest thing ever that I've discovered in the last few years, is that there is incredible new technology out that I think is going to change the world dramatically. So I was kind of like right there at the start of the internet. I started an internet company before anyone even knew what the internet was. I was right there at the start of Bitcoin before anyone knew what it was. I knew what the COVIDs was within a week or two of it, the word even being out there. And I'm telling you right now that the new biggest thing that I've caught on to is plasma's back, and this actually cures and heals almost everything, if not everything. I just say almost because maybe there's something it doesn't, but it actually cures and heals everything. You can actually meditate with it and connect more with it. It's actually connecting with life force energy. It's what Nikola Tesla actually had. And then Donald Trump's uncle and the CIA stole it like 100 years ago, and they've been trying to keep it out of people's hands ever since. So I just wanted to throw that in on here because it is the next big thing. And I think it really connects to like how we can live the simple life, right? Like get outside of the system. What are we going to do? Well, we should probably go find a place by a river, build whatever nice little place with whatever money you have, meditate every day. Grow your own food so you're not eating all their poison food, and get a Tesla machine, and then you'll actually never probably be sick ever again. You can heal any problems you have, so you get outside of the medical system and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, for anyone interested in that, just check it out at tesla.club, and that's tzla.club.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and just on that, Jeff, I'm obviously aware of the Tesla through yourself, and I think for anybody that wants to look into it, look, it's it's around about 10 to 11,000 US dollars, right, for the machine.
Yeah, it's not just for the machine; it's actually to become part of the club. So the thing about it is, like, this is the first club that really has rediscovered plasma in like 100 years, and actually has figured out how to make it in a machine that they can easily ship to anyone in the world. It actually gets by all the governments. They send it as like a science kit, and it's a free science kit, so it gets by the tariffs. It doesn't look like much, so if people are wondering, it doesn't look like a lot. It's on purpose because they don't want the government and anyone to actually find out what it is, because they're going to want to stop this. This is going to take down. If everyone knew about it, their big pharma would be gone. Most doctors would be gone, because most of them are just giving people pills that just make them like hide their symptoms and make them sicker, and they eventually die. Once people know plasma's back, they're all going to be gone. So they're going to want to stop it however they can. And the other thing is, this is like brand new technology to all of us, how to use plasma. And there's a lot of like details to it, a lot of things to learn about it. Like, do you use it for 5 minutes? Do you use it for an hour? If there's all kinds of stuff. So it's $11,000 to become part of the club. And then you get a free science kit, which is the machine. But the club is very, very important, because if I just gave you this machine, you had no idea what it was, you wouldn't know how to use it. You wouldn't know whatever, like hundreds or thousands of other people already have learned about how to use it, what works for this, what works for that, all that kind of stuff. So it's 11,000 US, which actually, when you think about it, because a lot of people have like a car, and they have a lease and all this sort of stuff, and their car's probably worth 20 or 30,000. A lot of people in the US and stuff like that, they're spending like 20 or $30,000 a year on medical insurance. So when you look at, do you need that car as much as having like perfect health? And you actually de-age with the machine as well. I've actually de-aged by over 2 decades with the machine. I'm 55, but my tissue age, my metabolic age is 30 years old, and I have the energy in my cells of a 10-year-old. So it actually de-ages you as well. So when you think about it, and you think about this is a lifelong sort of membership, so you obviously get a warranty for it for the first year. So any problem, and things can happen, by the way. If you've got like a very, very negative, like a demonic sort of entity on you, it might make the machines, like it might overpower the machine. So if that happens in the first year, first of all, like it's great that you finally got that demonic energy out. But they'll actually just replace it. No questions really asked. They'll ask you like what happened. You can go, I think it was a demonic energy, and they'll be like, yeah, that's usually what it is. And but then even after that, the club will help you. All the parts are actually made, so you can get them anywhere in the world. So like none of these are specific parts that are not something that you can't find somewhere else. So even if we have the apocalypse, you'll still be able to, you have a problem with the machine. You can probably easily find an electrician guy who can figure out how to, replace one of the items in the machine and stuff like that. So you'll have the machine for life. You're in this club for life, and it's, $11,000, but just think about, so many people have so many health issues, like, multiple sclerosis. There was a woman that came to Acapulco last year. She could barely walk. Now she can walk. She threw away her cane. There was a person going to have their legs amputated. Now they're walking. There was a dog that was paralyzed. Now he's okay. So when you think about the cost of, what would be the real cost if the medical system did that for you? It'd be like $1 million or more, and they can't do it. But now you can do it, and it's $11,000. So I would look at it as one of the most important investments of your lifetime. It is for me. Now, obviously, if you don't have that money, then you probably can't get it. But I would say look into it. Talk to like your parents, your family, your friends. See if you can get one just for like your group of friends and stuff like that. You all chip in, because even that is super, super valuable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what I was going to suggest to those people that maybe think, oh, look, it's a lot of money. And as you say, Jeff, what is the cost of health, right? We spend a fortune on, doing our car every year MOT, but do we MOT ourselves? So yeah, it could be a bit of a group of friends in a WhatsApp group that sort of chip in together and get the use out of it. And there's also as well, I'll mention, and I know you spoke to Mark Atwood maybe a few months ago. So I know Mark and Gary, they've set up a healing centre in the west of Ireland, which is a couple of hours from me. And they're using a lot of these healing devices that they've just implemented to Tesla. And I think Mark obviously came across it through yourself, Jeff. So there is those people that could maybe go and visit these healing centres. As I said, there's one in the west of Ireland now called Live 5D. But these are starting to pop up everywhere, across the world now. So you could even go in and become a member of that centre. So even if you can't make that big outlay at the start, go and visit in those type of centres. That seems to be another avenue for people as well.
Yeah, just so you know, the Tesla Club isn't authorizing people to set up clinics or centers with the Tesla machine yet. There's a number of things that they have to do to get that all set up so that it will actually run properly. There's going to be obviously like a lot of governments are going to try to shut it down and stuff like that. So they're figuring out how to do that. Now, some people have gone ahead and done that. Just so you know, just like, so Mark knows, for example, if he's a member of the Tesla Club, but he's actually using it and charging people to use it as a clinic, it voids his warranty, just so he knows, because also probably not supposed to be using it like 8 hours a day. I think it does work, and it has worked, but that's not what the warranty's for. So it's little details like that. But I think the Tesla Club will probably soon in the next year figure out all these details and figure out ways that people can start up things like clinics and stuff like that. But that'll be coming probably in, maybe later this year.
Okay, great, fantastic. Jeff, look, pleasure.
And that also, by the way, could be a huge business opportunity, right? Like we're talking about entrepreneurs here. Like basically, for any entrepreneurs out there, you should at least be learning about what's going on, because this is the biggest development. Like I said, I got into the internet in the early 1990s, got into Bitcoin in 2011. I'm telling you right now, this is the biggest new development of our lifetime. So as an entrepreneur, just start at least figuring it out, because that's what you do with the internet or Bitcoin, right? When you first started the word, you just start learning, right? You find out where the stuff is, what it is, and start figuring out how maybe you could profit from it in one way or another. And yeah, Tesla's actually going to have their referral program up and running probably in the next couple months. So that's going to be the first time that if you're a member, you can start having like Tesla parties at your house. And if people buy the Tesla machine, you get a commission on it. So I could actually see a lot of people probably making a lot of money just going around having like Tesla parties like all over town. And, you know, if someone buys a machine, they get a commission. They could probably make a very good living that way. So, you know, lots of entrepreneurial ideas are coming for that as well.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. No. Great. Well, thanks again, Jeff. It's been a real eye opener for me as always with yourself, and hopefully a lot of people will get value out of this today. I'm pretty sure they would. So, and they can go on your Dollar Vigilante website just to follow up on any of this.
Yeah, dollarvigilante.com is our financial website. Narcoboco.com is our event. I mentioned the Tesla Club. That's tzla.club. Be careful, because there's a lot of people, scammers out there now trying to, you know, rip people off with that. So make sure you go to the right website, tzla.club. I do our walk and talk videos. That's actually at vigilante.tv. We're also on Rumble. We're also on BitChute. We're also on YouTube, but you can't really find us if you search. I'm also on X, but you can't find me if you search, but I'm at Berwick Jeff. But yeah, that's most of my contacts. I'm all over the place, just like you, Patrick, trying to help get this information out to people, because that's part of the apocalypse. The apocalypse is the lifting of the veil, and that's what we're seeing. People are starting to wake up to all this stuff now, and now it's going to get really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Well, thanks again, Jeff, and hopefully we'll catch up again in the future and see where we are in this amazing apocalypse we're going through.
Thank you, Patrick.
It's great. Take care.